The Deception Protocol. The Mask of Weakness. Captain Elena Vasquez stood perfectly still in the cargo bay of the merchant vessel Peaceful Trader, her hands clasped behind her back, as she watched her team make final preparations. To any observer, she looked like nothing more than a tired human merchant captain in her mid-30s, with shoulder-length brown hair and kind eyes that seemed more suited to reading bedtime stories than commanding military operations. Her simple gray jumpsuit bore no insignia, no weapons, nothing to suggest she was anything other than what she appeared to be. This was exactly the point. The galaxy had made a critical error in judgment about humanity, and Elena was about to exploit that mistake to its fullest extent. For 3 years since first contact with the Galactic Trade Consortium, humans had been dismissed as a harmless species, too small, too weak, too emotional to pose any real threat to the established order. The various alien civilizations saw humans as perfect victims, or, at best, useful servants. The mercenary groups that plagued the Outer Rim had grown particularly bold in their attacks on human colonies. They struck with impunity, knowing that the soft-skinned bipeds could offer little resistance against plasma cannons and energy shields. The most notorious of these groups, the Void Serpents, had made capturing human slaves their specialty. They sold human workers to mining operations, human servants to wealthy alien households, and human subjects to research facilities that cared little for ethics. But the Void Serpents had made a mistake 3 weeks ago. They had attacked New Geneva Colony and taken not just workers and families, but also the 12-year-old daughter of Admiral Marcus Chen, the highest-ranking officer in Earth's rapidly expanding Space Force. The attack had been meant to demonstrate their power, to show the galaxy that humans were helpless prey. Instead, it had awakened something that the aliens were completely unprepared to face: the Silent Hunters. Elena's team consisted of 8 individuals, each handpicked not for their intimidating appearance, but for their absolutely ordinary human looks. Sergeant Mike Rodriguez looked like a maintenance worker with his stocky build and calloused hands. Lieutenant Amy Park appeared to be a young engineer, all of 25 years old with bright eyes and a ready smile. Corporal James Wright seemed like an accountant who had never seen combat in his life. The aliens manning the security checkpoint at Nexus Station 7 would see exactly what they expected to see when the Peaceful Trader requested docking permission. Just another group of harmless humans trying to make an honest living in a galaxy that barely tolerated their existence. "Remember," Elena said quietly, her voice carrying easily to each team member through their nearly invisible communication implants, "we are exactly what we appear to be until the moment we choose not to be. The target is the Void Serpent flagship Death's Edge, currently docked at Bay 17. Intelligence confirms that Admiral Chen's daughter and 43 other human captives are being held there." Rodriguez nodded, his expression showing none of the cold calculation that lurked behind his everyday appearance. In truth, he was a specialist in alien psychology who had spent 2 years studying the behavioral patterns of 17 different species. Park, despite her youthful appearance, held advanced degrees in xenobiology and alien technology integration. Wright was a tactical analyst whose mind worked like a quantum computer when it came to predicting enemy movements. Each member of Elena's team represented the absolute pinnacle of human capability, disguised behind the most ordinary human appearance possible. It was a deception that had taken decades to perfect, and one that the galaxy was about to experience for the first time. The approach. Nexus Station 7 hung in the darkness of space like a massive metal spider, its dozens of docking arms extending outward to embrace ships from across the galaxy. It served as a neutral meeting ground for traders, explorers, and, unfortunately, criminals. The station's authorities asked few questions as long as docking fees were paid and violence was kept to acceptable levels. The Peaceful Trader approached slowly, its engines running at minimal power to avoid appearing threatening. Elena sat in the captain's chair, her posture relaxed and non-confrontational as the station's traffic control officer appeared on her main screen. The officer was a Thraxian, a species known for their multiple arms and aggressive nature. Human vessel. The Thraxian growled, his 4 arms moving in dismissive gestures. State your business and prepare for inspection. Docking fee is 500 credits, inspection fee is 200 credits, and breathing tax for inferior species is 100 credits. Elena smiled pleasantly, the kind of smile that humans used when they were being taken advantage of but were too polite to complain. Of course, traffic control. We're here to trade textiles and processed foods. We have proper documentation and credits ready for transfer. The Thraxian's expression showed the contempt that most aliens felt when dealing with humans. Here was a species that actually paid made-up taxes without complaint, that submitted to inspections without resistance, that accepted insults as part of normal business. It was no wonder they were considered the galaxy's most convenient victims. Bay 23, the officer said dismissively. Keep your crew aboard until inspection is complete. Any trouble from you humans, and you'll be flushed out the airlock. Understood, Elena replied, maintaining her submissive demeanor even as she noted that Bay 23 was exactly 6 berths away from where the Death's Edge was docked. Close enough for what they needed to do, far enough to avoid immediate suspicion. The station's predators. As the peaceful trader settled into its assigned berth, Elena could see through the docking port windows into the station's main concourse. The sight was exactly what she had expected. Dozens of different alien species moving about their business, many of them bearing the scars and modifications that marked them as mercenaries, pirates, or worse. The void serpents were easy to identify. They were Zeltharians, a reptilian species standing nearly 8 feet tall with natural armor plating and venomous fangs. Their leader, Captain Zarkthol, was known throughout the sector as one of the most brutal slavers in operation. He took particular pleasure in breaking the spirits of species he considered weak, and humans had become his favorite target. 3 void serpent guards stood near the entrance to Bay 17, their plasma rifles held casually but ready for use. They wore the black and green armor that marked them as elite mercenaries, and their body language showed the supreme confidence of predators who had never encountered effective resistance. Elena watched them through her ship's external cameras, studying their positions and patrol patterns. Each guard was easily 3 times her weight and possessed natural weapons that could tear through human flesh like paper. By any reasonable measure, they should be more than capable of handling a few human traders. But reasonable measures had never applied to humanity. The human advantage. While the station's inspection team went through the motions of searching the peaceful trader, Elena's crew prepared for their mission with the quiet efficiency that had become humanity's signature. Their preparations looked like normal maintenance and cargo organization, but each action served a specific purpose. Rodriguez calibrated what appeared to be a standard cargo scanner, but was actually a sophisticated sensor array capable of mapping the internal structure of nearby ships. Park ran diagnostics on the life support system while actually accessing the station's central computer network through carefully hidden backdoors. Wright reviewed shipping manifests while simultaneously analyzing the combat capabilities and psychological profiles of every Void Serpent operative visible on the security feeds. The advantage that humanity possessed was not physical strength or advanced weapons, though they had both when needed. The advantage was cognitive flexibility combined with deceptive capability. Humans could think in ways that alien minds simply could not comprehend, and they could hide their true nature behind masks that no other species had learned to penetrate. The aliens saw species in simple terms: strong or weak, predator or prey, valuable or worthless. They could not conceive of a species that could be all of these things simultaneously, switching between modes as circumstances required. To them, the small, soft humans would always be victims, right up until the moment they realized their fatal error. The setup. The inspection team finished their work and departed, taking Elena's credits and leaving behind the standard warnings about staying out of restricted areas. As soon as they were gone, Elena's team moved into action with practiced precision. Phase 1. Elena announced quietly. Park, I need station schematics and security protocols. Rodriguez, map the Death's Edge and locate our people. Right, behavioral analysis on all Void Serpent personnel. Within minutes, the information flowed in. The station's security was designed to keep order among competing criminal groups, not to prevent a sophisticated infiltration. The Death's Edge had 47 crew members aboard, with the human captives being held in converted cargo holds on the lower decks. Most importantly, Captain Zarkthul was currently in the station's main cantina, conducting business with potential buyers for his human merchandise. Elena felt a cold anger settle in her chest as she processed this information. The Void Serpents were not just slavers. They were merchants of human suffering, treating people like Admiral Chen's daughter as inventory to be sold to the highest bidder. It was time to show them the true nature of humanity. The deception begins. Elena led her team out of the peaceful trader, maintaining perfect cover as nervous human traders venturing into dangerous territory. They moved through the station's corridors with the hesitant steps of people who were clearly out of their depth, drawing exactly the kind of dismissive attention they wanted from the various criminals around them. Several alien thugs made crude comments as they passed, suggestions about what could be done with the pretty little humans if they wandered into the wrong section of the station. Elena endured the harassment with visible discomfort, playing her role perfectly while mentally cataloging each threat for future reference. The team split up as they reached the main concourse, each member heading to predetermined positions around the station. To observers, it looked like they were simply trying to find trading opportunities, spreading out to cover more ground. In reality, they were positioning themselves for a coordinated strike that would eliminate the Void Serpent operation in a matter of minutes. Elena approached the cantina where Captain Zarkthul was conducting his business, her demeanor that of a desperate trader hoping to make a deal. She could see the massive Zeltharian through the entrance, his armored form towering over a group of potential buyers as he described the merchandise available for purchase. As she drew closer, Elena could hear fragments of the conversation that made her blood run cold. Zarkthul was not just selling humans as laborers. He was offering them for medical experimentation, for entertainment purposes that she didn't want to contemplate, and worst of all, he was taking special orders for specific types of humans. The galaxy's criminal underworld had turned humanity into a commodity, and they were about to learn why that was the worst mistake they could possibly make. Elena touched her communication implant once, sending a simple signal to her team. The deception was over. It was time for the galaxy to meet the real humanity. The reckoning wave. The moment of truth. Elena Vasquez stepped into the cantina, her appearance still that of a harmless human trader, but everything about her internal state had changed. The moment she sent that signal to her team, decades of careful planning and preparation had culminated in a single irreversible decision. The galaxy was about to discover what humans were truly capable of when their loved ones were threatened. Captain Zarkthul dominated the center of the cantina, his 8-foot frame covered in natural armor plating that had deflected energy weapons in dozens of battles. His reptilian eyes held the cruel intelligence of a predator who had never met his match, and his conversation with the assembled buyers showed a callous disregard for human life that made Elena's jaw clench with controlled fury. The young female specimens are particularly valuable, Zarkthul was saying, his forked tongue flicking out as he spoke. Humans mature slowly, which means years of useful service, and they bond emotionally with their offspring, so separating families creates excellent leverage for compliance. Elena approached the group with the hesitant gait of someone gathering courage to speak. The buyers, a mix of various alien species involved in illegal enterprises, barely glanced at her. To them, she was just another potential victim wandering into their web. "Excuse me," Elena said, her voice carrying just the right amount of nervous energy. "I heard you might be interested in trade opportunities with humans." Zarkthul's massive head turned toward her, his vertical pupils fixing on her with predatory interest. "A human, here. How convenient." His laugh was a harsh sound that made other patrons of the cantina look over with interest. "Tell me, little creature, What could you possibly have that would interest beings such as ourselves? Elena moved closer, maintaining her role as a knave trader right up, until she was within arm's reach of the massive alien. Information, she said quietly. The strike begins. What happened next occurred so quickly that most witnesses would later claim they hadn't seen it clearly. Elena's hand moved in a motion that seemed almost casual, but the small device she pressed against Zarkthal's neck delivered a precisely calculated neural disruptor pulse that immediately paralyzed his voluntary muscle control. The 8-foot reptilian predator, who had terrorized human settlements across 3 sectors, toppled forward like a felled tree, his massive weight crashing into the table and sending alien buyers scrambling backward in shock and confusion. "Security!" one of them shouted, but Elena was already moving. The cantina erupted into chaos as Elena's training took over completely. Her movements were fluid and economical, each action serving multiple purposes as she neutralized threats and created confusion. The small plasma pistol that appeared in her hand had been concealed so effectively that even the station scanners hadn't detected it, a testament to human ingenuity in weapons design. But the weapon was almost secondary to Elena's real advantage, her understanding of alien psychology and physiology. Years of study had taught humanity exactly where each species was vulnerable, not just physically but mentally. The shots she fired were precisely placed to disable rather than kill, creating maximum psychological impact on the witnesses. The coordinated response. Throughout Nexus Station 7, Elena's team moved with deadly efficiency. Each member had shed their disguise of human weakness and revealed the predatory capabilities that lay beneath. They struck simultaneously at predetermined targets, using the aliens' own prejudices against them. Sergeant Rodriguez approached the guard station with the shambling gait of a drunk human looking for directions. The 2 Thraxian guards barely glanced at him until his hands moved with inhuman speed, delivering precise strikes that shut down their nervous systems before they could even reach for their weapons. Lieutenant Park entered the station's computer core by simply asking the maintenance supervisor if she could take a look at the pretty lights. The crystalline technician, amused by what he saw as typical human fascination, with technology beyond their understanding, was still chuckling when Park's neural interface established complete control over the station's systems. Corporal Wright walked calmly through the corridors toward Bay 17, his appearance so unthreatening that the Void Serpent guards actually moved aside to let him pass. It wasn't until he was directly between them that they realized their mistake, and by then it was far too late. The revelation. In the cantina, the surviving buyers and patrons watched in stunned silence as Elena stood over the paralyzed form of Captain Zarkthal. The small human woman, who moments before had seemed like easy prey, now radiated a cold competence that made the hardened criminals around her step back instinctively. "Let me explain something to all of you," Elena said, her voice carrying clearly through the suddenly quiet room. "For 3 years, you've been operating under a fundamental misunderstanding about my species. You've seen our size, our apparent weakness, our emotional nature, and you've concluded that we're perfect victims." She knelt beside Zarkthal's immobilized form, her expression showing none of the mercy that aliens expected from humans. "What you fail to understand is that humans are persistence predators. On our world, we hunted creatures 10 times our size not through strength, but through intelligence, patience, and an absolute refusal to give up once we've marked our prey." Elena's communicator crackled with reports from her team. Bay 17 secured, all hostiles neutralized. Computer systems under our control. Station security disabled. Each report brought a new wave of understanding to the aliens watching her. The hunt revealed. "You want to know the real difference between humans and every other species in this galaxy," Elena continued, standing to address the room. "Every other species sees conflict in terms of single encounters. You fight, you win or lose, you move on. Humans see conflict in terms of campaigns. We don't just want to win today's battle. We want to ensure that today's battle is the last one we ever have to fight." The implications of her words began to sink in among the more intelligent criminals present. If humans thought in terms of long-term campaigns rather than individual conflicts, then everything they had observed about human behavior needed to be reevaluated. The trading ships you've been attacking. Many of them were intelligence-gathering operations, the human colonies that seemed to offer so little resistance. They were studying your tactics, your technology, your psychology, the diplomatic missions that appeared to accomplish so little. They were mapping your organizations, your alliances, your weaknesses. Alina's smile was not the pleasant expression that aliens were used to seeing from humans. It was the smile of a predator that had been stalking its prey for years and was finally ready to strike. We let you think we were weak, because weak prey doesn't threaten the predator. We let you capture our people because rescued prisoners provide perfect intelligence on your operations. We let you underestimate us because an underestimated enemy has every advantage in the galaxy. The network falls. Throughout the station, Alina's team was systematically dismantling the Void Serpent operation with a thoroughness that shocked even veteran criminals. But their actions were precise and controlled, designed to send a specific message rather than create indiscriminate destruction. Park's control of the station's systems allowed her to access every computer, every communication device, every data storage unit connected to the network. Within minutes, she had compiled a complete intelligence package on every criminal organization operating from Nexus Station 7, along with their contacts, their methods, and most importantly, their fears. Rodriguez was not just neutralizing guards. He was demonstrating to every witness exactly how vulnerable their supposedly superior alien physiology was to someone who truly understood it. Each takedown was a lesson in human capability that survivors would carry to every corner of the galaxy. Wright moved through the station like a ghost, appearing wherever criminal leaders tried to organize resistance and disappearing before they could react. His presence created an atmosphere of helplessness among beings who had built their reputations on being the hunters rather than the hunted. The message spreads. As news of the events at Nexus Station 7 spread through criminal communication networks, the reaction was immediate and profound. The Void Serpents, who had been among the most feared mercenary groups in the sector, had been completely neutralized by a handful of humans who had appeared to be harmless traitors. But the deeper implications were what truly terrified the criminal underworld. If humans could disguise themselves so completely, if they could plan operations with such precision, if they could turn their apparent weaknesses into tactical advantages, then every assumption about human vulnerability was wrong. Elena stood in the recovered cargo hold of the Death's Edge, watching as the 44 rescued humans were prepared for transport back to human space. Admiral Chen's daughter looked up at her with eyes that held both gratitude and a new understanding of what her species was capable of. "Are we really that dangerous?" the 12-year-old asked. Elena knelt down to meet the girl's eyes, her expression gentle but honest. "We're as dangerous as we need to be to protect the people we love. The galaxy has spent 3 years thinking that was a weakness. They're about to learn it's our greatest strength." The New Order. In the weeks that followed the Nexus Station incident, the effect on criminal organizations throughout the galaxy was immediate and dramatic. Groups that had specialized in targeting human settlements suddenly found themselves looking over their shoulders, wondering if the next harmless-looking human they encountered might be an advanced scout for a precision strike team. The psychological impact was even more significant than the tactical one. Criminals who had built their reputations on preying upon the weak discovered that they could no longer trust their ability to identify weakness. If humans could appear helpless while being lethally competent, then the fundamental assumptions that criminal organizations relied upon were no longer valid. Trade routes that had been plagued by attacks on human vessels suddenly became much safer, not because of increased security, but because potential attackers could no longer be certain that their targets were actually vulnerable. The fear of encountering a disguised human strike team was enough to deter many criminals from risking any engagement with human ships. Elena's team returned to Earth as heroes, but their real achievement was not the rescue of 44 hostages. Their real achievement was fundamentally altering the galaxy's perception of humanity in a single decisive action. The final understanding. 6 months after the Nexus Station incident, Alina stood before the Galactic Security Council as humanity's representative. The aliens who had once dismissed humans as a minor species now listened to her words with careful attention. "The galaxy has learned that humans can appear weak while being strong," Alina said. "But there's something else you need to understand. We didn't become dangerous because we were threatened. We were always dangerous. We simply chose not to show you that side of ourselves until circumstances required it." She looked around the chamber at representatives of dozens of species, many of whom had spent years underestimating humanity. "The choice of whether to be predator or prey, protector or threat, friend or enemy, that choice remains ours to make. How we choose depends entirely on how we're treated. The criminal organizations learned what happens when humans are treated as prey. We hope the rest of the galaxy will choose to learn what happens when humans are treated as friends." The message was clear, and it resonated throughout civilized space. Humanity had revealed itself to be a species that could adapt to any role the situation required, and the galaxy would never again make the mistake of assuming that human appearance revealed human capability. In the end, the greatest weapon humanity possessed was not their technology or their tactics, but their ability to be completely underestimated right up until the moment they chose to reveal their true nature. It was a weapon that could only be used once, but Alina and her team had used it perfectly. The age of humanity as the galaxy's victim was over. The age of humanity as the galaxy's most unpredictable force had begun.